Are you ready? It's time for the Sudbury MMA Podcast.
All right, man, we are live. I'm sitting here, John Cole, guys from Sudbury MMA, sitting here with James Hodgins.
Hello, everybody.
He's absolutely not a stranger to anybody. So,
well, to the people that don't know me, I would be a stranger.
That's right.
But
that's right.
You never know.
So, actually, James and I were this conversation actually started last week when James got back.
This conversation's actually started years ago.
Yeah,
it's just something we've been talking about over the last few years.
Yeah.
And we just seem to kind of add to it over the years that have gone by. Because as a businessman yourself and an entrepreneur myself, and I guess even with the age that we are, we've seen stuff, we hear stuff, we know stuff.
Yeah.
So over the years, I think our opinions have changed, wavered, and have been reinforced on some issues.
And the cool part about it is, as we were talking about it, we were kind of like relating to how jiu-jitsu is relevant.
Yes.
You know, to both business,
life
in general.
Sorry to interrupt, but maybe we should just state what we're talking about.
Like patience. We were talking about how
patience.
Jiu-jitsu teaches you patience.
Yes.
You know how, failing forward. You know, and how, learning that there's a long game, and in order to understand the long game, you got to kind of look past the short game. For example, like when related to jiu-jitsu specifically, you're going to try, let's say, a specific technique like a sweep. Let's say the first time you learn a scissor sweep, you're going to attempt that literally hundreds of times before you are successful in developing that sweep on a resistant opponent. And we were talking, we kind of related it to a whole bunch of like life lessons in terms of business and, seeing further than the small failures throughout the years that you make in terms for long-term success.
I never thought of it like that, but now that you just actually said that, I'm like, yeah, failures, that's definitely, we, in jiu-jitsu, because we could have easily just talked about jiu-jitsu and patience and what that means in the grand scheme of things, but now that we're equating it to life lessons, it is so much like that, because we always have that saying in jiu-jitsu, you never lose, you learn, right? So when you fail, you learn. Well, that's the same thing in life and anything you do. If you fail, you learn from your mistakes, you get back up and you do it again, presumably differently if it has to be in order to succeed, or you do it repetitiously until it actually is correct.
No, and that's what I mean. And in life, some people fail, and because of that failure, they lack a little bit of confidence, and then they don't even try, or they stop trying, or they start making excuses.
Yep.
And that can open up a whole other conversation.
We're
not going to go there. But the same thing in jiu-jitsu. Like, people will be like, "Oh, I tried that technique, it didn't work." It's like, bro, like you've tried it 3 times.
Yeah. Exactly.
Nothing's going to work 3 times.
No.
And basically, like, the way the conversation were, like, I don't remember specifically we were talking about with your trip to Honduras and whatnot, and how you've developed patience, and you're saying, talking about how jiu-jitsu has sort of taught you that patience.
Well, jiu-jitsu's definitely taught me. It's no, it'll be some surprise to some, it'll be no surprise to others that, yes, I used to be hot-headed. I don't consider myself hot-headed anymore, because I know
just for the record, I've never seen you as a hot.
That's the thing, but before, that's funny. So here's the thing. Yeah. There's a reason why you've never seen me hot-headed before. Yeah. Did you know me before jiu-jitsu?
Well, no, I didn't.
You had no.
Actually,
no.
That's right. You know what? Sorry,
you did not know. You did not know me before jiu-jitsu at all.
It's hot. I'm gonna take my jacket off.
We never met. We never talked, right? So, anyways, but
yeah, sorry guys, we're doing this podcast here.
So I used to be the
out of my truck, so there's a bit of a noise.
Yeah, it's hot. I used to be that guy that would be. Short-tempered. My old photography mentor, Rob Provencher, there, my old business partner, he can definitely give you stories of times that I've been hot-tempered, impatient, and very vocal, and just not just closed-minded. Like, I'm right, you're wrong. That's it. Don't want to listen to it, and no patience. But ever since we started doing jiu-jitsu, because I think as a white belt, at least, and I'll say this again, I'm not right or wrong. This is my opinion. But because I've seen it and I've done this, like, as a white belt, you're so eager to learn. You're like, learn. You do want to learn as much as fast as possible because you love the sport. You love everything about it, so you want to. But as you get older and you progress through your teaching and stuff like that, you realize that and you said this, like, and we've seen this all over, like, it's the journey, it's the longevity of it. The secret to jiu-jitsu and martial arts is longevity. Now, for us older folk, and I consider myself older because I am in that seniors category when it comes to jiu-jitsu, longevity to me is being healthy and keeping my body in shape and not being broken, bruised, or battered, like I'm on an injury right now. And to me, this is a hindrance. But I've learned now, you know, my ankle injury has been like a few weeks now, and I know it's going to be a few more. Am I impatient about it? Am I upset about it? I'm a little bit upset that it happened, but I'm not too impatient to know that in the grand scheme of things of the next 20, 30, 40 years of doing jiu-jitsu, because I plan on doing it for the rest of my life, this small moment, you know, is just a small, minuscule thing. But just for the immediate lessons in patience, because in jiu-jitsu, I mean, the mats don't lie. Like, you're going to learn something and you failed, and you failed, and you failed, and you failed, and you failed. But you have patience because you keep trying it, and you keep trying it, and then eventually it comes, and you learn that perseverance pays off. But if you were to not be patient, just say, oh, it doesn't work, you're never going to get to that point. And jiu-jitsu teaches you that. It teaches humility. It teaches you failure. It teaches you discipline, right? And we were talking about this earlier, and I'm not trying to hijack the thing here because I definitely want your thing, but your opinion on this. But, you know, we were talking about just like recently with me, like with learning juggling clubs, right? Now, I've always known how to juggle. I taught myself when I was a young age, but I haven't touched my juggling balls in like years, and I wanted to learn clubs. But I knew for a fact that if I had never have taken jiu-jitsu, even though I did learn to juggle balls when I was juggling balls when I was younger, I remember it took a long time, because I do it once or twice, drop the balls, I screw it, I'm not doing it. And then I come back to it a few months later, try it, but after doing jiu-jitsu now and learning with the clubs, I must have dropped these clubs thousands of times. But I knew that it didn't faze me at all. I'm like, it doesn't faze me. I just picked them back up because I knew eventually the rhythm, the movement, the memory, eventually it'll just click and I'll be able to get 3 clubs in the air at once. And then after that, I'll be able to do that twice, and then I'll be able to do that 3 times. And then next thing you know, I'm juggling clubs. It only took me a few weeks, really. And I know for a fact that if I didn't have learned jiu-jitsu, I probably would not have been able to juggle clubs, because clubs are a lot harder than juggling balls, because there's a lot more technicality to it. And if I didn't have the persistence that I learned in jiu-jitsu, there's no way I'd be able to do that. Now, I've also put that out in my real life with everything else, my business, my work ethic. Business, I know it takes years to build a business. So I know that, and I put the work in, and I'm patient, and I've had failures. I've had lots of failures. But those failures also, as far as my recent trip, there was a lot of failures in that trip. A lot of things went wrong. Stuff that was out of my control, stuff that was out of the company's control. It was just like Murphy's Law that if it's going to happen. But did I panic or get frustrated or anything? It's like, there's no point to it. There's no point in getting frustrated because I'm never going to learn from it.
No, I know exactly what you mean, and it's funny because we often talk about how, you know, the jiu-jitsu lifestyle and whatnot, and I'm not saying that people who don't do jiu-jitsu cannot relate to even this conversation.
They can, but they won't be able to relate to a jiu-jitsu lifestyle. And I'm a little bit adamant on that.
Really? Eh?
I don't think, like, if you're not a martial artist and you've never kind of... Well, actually, maybe I shouldn't, because I think that involves any sport.
Yeah, because
you're right.
I'm just looking at it like, you know...
I think they could. If they were in a sport that was dedicated, that you had to put the time in, they can relate to it.
Yeah, like any sport, like, you know, you look at, let's say, and I don't know anything about hockey, but one thing I could probably say is that, you know, you don't make it to the NHL after a couple of years of play, right?
No.
You know, like sometimes you hear people talk about, you know, their goals to be a blue belt or a purple or, let's say, a black belt. Like, you know, it's hard to tell someone, no problem, man, you keep training. And, you know, it's at the very minimum about a 10-year goal for black belt. Some people will be like, 10 years?
Yeah.
Man,
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
But, like, you know, but, like, you relate it to anything. Building a business. It doesn't, you know, unless you're super lucky, and there's definitely
people out there, and, like, you know, like, even I had this conversation with somebody else about the business aspect of it, you know, because they made this rebuttal saying, yeah, well, I know people that just went out and they built a $1 million company in a few months in the tech. I was like, but they still put the work in. Like,
oh yeah,
like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And jiu-jitsu's like that, and that whole jiu-jitsu lifestyle is not just the martial arts. I think that jiu-jitsu lifestyle, you know, the martial arts aspect out of a 100, you know, 0 to 100%, the martial arts aspect is maybe 10-15%.
Oh.
Everything you learn about it
Yeah.
to come back into real life is everything else.
It's funny because sometimes, you know, as a coach, you know, particularly with kids classes and whatnot, and sometimes adult classes if they want to listen, because not everybody wants to listen on that in this front. But like, it's one thing to teach people, the technique. That is honestly, that's the easy part. I can demonstrate a technique, I can explain it thoroughly. But sometimes to explain people that that they have to have the patience and learn the timing, and they literally have to roll with resistant opponents for, like, I'm not exaggerating, like hours and hours of rolling, so that they can kind of develop that timing and sensitivity to make that one technique work. And sometimes I tell people, you just need to be patient. Like, it's not going to come overnight. Like, you need to put the time in, you need to put the practice. It's like me. I don't know if people know this, or most people, I love guitar.
Did not know that.
Yeah, I love guitar.
Do you know how to play?
Well, no, not really.
Okay.
I can play like 4 chords.
Mm-hmm.
I've been playing the same song for the last like 15 years because I don't put the time in.
Are you going to name the song?
Yeah, Pearl Jam's Last Kiss.
Oh, nice.
Everybody's like, right? It's a very simple song to play. There's like 4 chords, and and you can kind of play with the strumming pattern a little bit. I'm not very good at it, but man, I love that song. I play it, and whenever I try to go outside my comfort zone, I give up because it's hard. It takes time, and I make excuses, and I'm like, oh, I don't have time. It's late at night. I'm gonna go to sleep earlier, or I'm gonna spend time with Dave or Caroline or something. You know what I mean? Like, so, yeah. It's just time and effort. I just don't put that time and effort in, so how can I expect to get the rewards, right? Same thing.
The difference is you don't complain about.
No,
you don't complain about not being able to play guitar.
No,
that's the difference.
That's right. Yeah, and that.
Because if you started complaining about it, I'd say, well,
I mean, guitar's
stop complaining, because
only the privileged learn how to play guitar. You know what I mean?
Only the privileged learn how to play guitar.
Yeah, I was like, no, anybody can do it. You just need to put some time into it.
I know a guy that learned to play guitar with never touching a guitar.
Never touching a guitar.
Yeah, never touched a guitar, but he knows how to play. He's brilliant at it. That doesn't make any sense, does it?
No, it does not.
It's just like those people that know how to learn jiu-jitsu, but they've never actually been on the mats.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, actually, I heard a quote. I was looking at a video online of the founder of Alliance, and I really thought it was really cool how he was talking about how he's been a competitor and he's done the competition scene, and the attributes and the skill set that he learned as a competitor, the mindset, the work ethic, and all of those different traits that he learned as a competitor, he now takes into his business and his team, like, with the same vigor and training and work ethic that he put into winning all of his world titles. He now takes that same vigor and puts it into for him wanting to develop the best team in the world, the best academy in the world. And I was like, man, like, yeah, like, people take these comparisons and and all the hard work that you learn on the mats, and it teaches you about yourself. And if you can take those same skill sets and transferable skills and apply it to your life, understand that it's okay to fail, it's okay to not be successful on your first attempt, but it's not okay to quit. It's not okay to stop.
Ask any successful person on whatever they're doing, any professional, anybody who's successful at whatever they do, whether it's work, a sport, cooking, whatever, ask them if they were like that right away.
Oh, 100%. Like,
they're all going to tell you the same, right?
Yeah.
No. You'll get the odd person that says, yeah, I've always been good. But like, the thing is, too, like, with jiu-jitsu, like, because the thing is, you hear that term, the mats don't lie.
That's right.
If you put the time into jiu-jitsu, you do get rewarded. You get rewarded with your better skill. You're better, you're faster, whatever you want to learn and whatever you want to complete as far as your goals in jiu-jitsu. If you put the work in, I mean, we've seen it day in and day out. We've had young competitors that are now doing very well, but it's because they're on the mats every day, they're working every day, they're taking some privates with you, and yet and at the end, when they got their hand raised, they know that it's because of the work they put in. Hard work pays off.
They've literally outworked the rest of their opponents.
And so hard work pays off. Now, I've taken that myself out into the real world as well, not just on the mats, out in the real world. I know that hard work pays off, because tell me when hard work hasn't paid off.
No, you know what? I'm a huge advocate of that.
I mean, you both too, because the hard work pays off in jiu-jitsu, but hard work also pays off in the business of jiu-jitsu, which is what you do.
Hard
right?
work pays off in life.
That's what it does. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what I try to instill, like, in, for example, like, I talk about the kids class lots, because for me that's important. It's like, you know what? Hey, yeah, it's hard. but if it was easy, do you really want to do it? Like,
Exactly.
no, you're here to learn a new skill. You should expect it to be a little bit hard, a little bit difficult. Challenge yourself. That's what we're put here to do, man. We're here to challenge ourselves and just see like what great heights like we can achieve as a human being, like both in family, business, like just in life in general.
When people, especially kids, learn that when they practice, they repeat, they listen, they learn, they apply, and then they get rewarded in the way that, say they finally do get that sweep, and they realize, yes, I finally got it. Man, it took a while, but I finally got it. I tried and I tried and tried. Don't you think they'll be able to take that out into the school?
Oh, yeah.
Don't you think they'll be able to take that out into their education
100%.
or life or anything? They'll know that,
100%.
It takes time.
I often talk about this because I often get asked about discipline.
Yes.
Parents will ask me about discipline. Does your program provide discipline? And I'm pretty frank. I'm like, yeah, it does. However, maybe not in the context in which you're thinking.
Right.
And often they're like, well, what do you mean by that? I was like, okay. Like, here's the thing. If someone, if we have a child come in and they're a little hyper, don't listen, et cetera, like if people think that we're going to be like the military and make them stand still and focus, no, not necessarily. It's not exactly the way we work in terms of developing discipline. But what we do is we encourage hard work, and we reward hard work with praise, encouragement, support. And through that praise, encouragement, and support, we hope that the kids, they feel like, man, I feel fantastic because, look at all the support I'm getting from my team and my instructors and my parents. And then secondly, they see that, hey, I am able to do this. And with a little bit of encouragement, they try a little harder. And then they feel good about themselves because they've attained things that they thought were difficult or were not necessarily attainable for them. And then through that success, they learn that hard work and discipline breeds success. And that's how we encourage discipline.
And you know what's very interesting about that? It's because you were talking about the kids this week. But it's amazing that the same thing applies, and we've seen it day in and day out, including myself, adults coming in and learning that exact same thing, discipline. Even though we're adults, some don't have necessarily they don't have discipline.
Yeah.
They've never followed through on something. And now you see these adults come in and they set their goals. They, after a few classes, they realize like, well, it's hard, but it's fun. And next thing you know, a few months in, they've reached some of their goals, whether it's health, whether it's where they want to be, the amount of times they want to come out. They're actually disciplined on making an effort to coming out and putting the work in. Yep. And you can see their attitudes change. I've seen people that come in here and be a little bit closed off, shy, just kind of nervous. Yep. So next thing you know, they're like spreading the gospel of jiu-jitsu because they realize how well it's benefited them, and they notice that their family members have noticed how well it's benefited them.
Yeah. I'm not putting anybody on the spot, but yeah, we've seen that so many times. And here's the thing, like sometimes like it's one thing I like about our place is the environment. Like they talk like when people are confident and it's an accepting environment, it allows other people to be confident
and be themselves
and be
accepted. And know that they're accepted. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then when people feel accepted, they become more confident, and it's like a steamroll. It transcends. They have difficulty expressing themselves, not because they can't, because I heard it 1,000 times. Like kids are super quiet when they come in, and the parents are like, man, but at home they're a chatterbox. They they don't stop. And that's when I hear that, I'm like, man, that's my goal. I want to meet this chatterbox. I want them to feel comfortable here, and this, even if this is the first place where they come out. Actually, my own son is a chatterbox at home, and I'm reading report cards, and the teacher's like, yeah, he's kind of shy, and I'm like, what? So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna shift my focus for his martial arts journey, like. The next martial arts class that he comes into, and I'm not exaggerating, like he will be doing counting. Like I'm going to make him count in front of the class. You know what I mean? Like, and that's just a small step towards, we're going to break that shyness. That's the first step. He's only 4 years old, but that's his first step to public speaking. I'm going to make him count and be uncomfortable in front of the other 5 or 6 4-year-olds, and I'm going to make him count and be uncomfortable and deal with those nerves.
And that's the difference between something like what we have here with our martial arts compared to other sports. You know what I mean? Like, you as a parent with your kid in a martial arts, you can actually convey to the instructors, well, this is what's happening in school, and this is what I'd like. And we can gear the lesson or the way we train the kid, like you just said, in order to overcome that. Some traditional sports, you can't do that because you got to learn to play the sport. Like, you know what I mean? Whereas this, like you said, just having him up and counting out drills and stuff like that, you can, if that's an issue that needs to be addressed on the outside of life. And that's what's nice, because without actually singling out a single student, you can actually tailor one single lesson to all the individual students, because you just have them do the different parts of it.
No, it's for sure. The I can't remember what our original topic was when we wanted to talk today.
The original one was work hard, get rewarded.
Work hard.
That's the mentality that you and I kind of grew up with. You get what you get what you're rewarded, and don't complain what you don't have, because if you want more, you work for it.
Yeah, like, I mean, and I believe, like, for most people, especially, like, you know,
we were talking about when did working hard become hard for people? Like, when did it become a negative thing?
I'm not.
And it's the same thing on the mats. Like, it's like we said. Like, look at jiu-jitsu. So somebody's working hard, somebody's not working hard. Somebody's really putting the time in and learning and all that. Somebody's not. Do they both get promoted because they've been there for the same amount of time? No, it's not. It's an individual thing, just like life is. If you work hard, you get rewarded. It's kind of the same principle, right?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I've had individuals in the past, like, you know, be so concerned about you know, the stripes on their belt and whatnot, and, you know, some people, it's like, well, if I'm not gonna get graded, like, what's the point of continuing? Like, you know, if I don't get rewarded for the hard work, like, why should I continue? And it's like, man,
I think for most, when you get a little bit, like, I'll admit, like, when I first started, like, I look forward to getting my stripes when I was a white belt. It was like, yeah, I'm learning something. But I think as you get a little bit older and you progress more, like, honest truth, like, yeah, do I want my black belt someday? I do, someday. I don't care when, but someday in my lifetime, I would like to get it. But I really don't care how long it takes now. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't care when my next stripe comes. I really don't. I'm just glad to be doing this. And I think a lot of people get like that. A lot of people at first, you're concerned about promotions and all that, but as you start progressing and you get into it more and you get up in the little senior levels, it does become a different quality, a different aspect of it.
And I wonder if it's because by the time someone moves up into, like, a purple belt or higher, et cetera, I wonder if it's because they've learned the value of patience.
That's exactly it. At least for me, that's what it is. Like, I'm like, again, like, see, here's the thing. So I look at my brother-in-law, Mike, right? 4th degree black belt, karate, blah, blah, blah. Right from the very beginning when we started, like, he did not care about stripes. Couldn't care. I don't care about it. I don't need to. He's already learnt that through karate. He's already put the patience in. He's already done that. For me, it was different. But now that I've been in it for, it's going to probably going on like 7 years now. Like, to me, I've learnt that. So it doesn't matter. It's not important to me anymore. And it really isn't. And so I try to tell people that when they're just focused on getting their stripes, it's like, yeah, don't worry about it. Like, I know, trust me, we've been there. And it's exciting. But as time goes on, and you see that with, like, go ask all their senior belts, purple belts, brown belts, you know, if they really do, like, if it bothers them that they're not getting promoted fast enough. Most of them will just say, meh, whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, meh, whatever. Yeah, no, they're just happy to be doing it still.
Yeah, no, exactly. You know, I know it's a very interesting time, and I think if that's the one thing we would like for people to get from listening to this today, is you know what, the hard work, the patient, don't quit, man. Like, keep working at it. You know, persevere through, you know, some of the plateaus, persevere through some of the difficult points, and it's almost like if you're able to learn how to persevere through those difficult times in your training, not only will those skills and that mindset be something that you'll take into your personal life, but it's far more rewarding than, you know, in the bigger picture, it's far more rewarding than, you know, getting something handed to you easily.
And just look at, you know, for those of you that are already doing in your clubs, doing martial arts, like, don't just focus on the jiu-jitsu aspect or the Muay Thai aspect. Focus on what's around you. Focus on the friends you're making. Focus on the conversations you're having. Oh, yeah. Like, that's the other benefit about martial arts, is the network that you meet of people, of supportive, positive people, right? Because usually everybody is positive. That's the majority. Yeah. And the funny thing is, when somebody's not positive, everybody will step up to either help out, find out why, what's going on. Like, it does become, you know, we have that saying, one team, one family. We firmly believe in the one team, one family. You know, like as soon as you step through those doors and get on the mats, you're part of the family, and we're going to treat you like that too.
Yeah, like I mean, I look at, like, we just came back from that tournament, the Ascension tournament last weekend, and you know, if you were to ask me about individual matches, you know, of course I remember like some of the specifics, but you know what, we had a lot more laughs at our team dinners.
That's where you learn a lot, team dinners.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean, like we had some big laughs there. You know, got to know students on a more personal level. They got to know me on a more personal level. Got to bond a little bit. Got to actually, you know, sometimes it gets so busy at the club. You know, it's kind of unfortunate. You don't get time to sometimes just socialize and chat as much as you want to. And you know, in those travels, like, you actually get to do that. And you know, we kind of even got to know some of our competitors from other academies, like some of our opponents. You know, bantering back and forth with some of the guys, and of course, like, you know, even teasing each other a little bit on social media with some of the gifts and everything, and you know, talking about Anthony, and just a funny guy. Saw him at the tournament, you know, big hug, and hey man, you know, like, just some of the relationships you build in as you kind of go through this journey. Like, that to me is like something that's,
so, you know, just to do the shameless plug, not that I was planning on it for this one, but since this is probably posted soon, don't forget we got that Ottawa Martial Arts Weekend coming up.
Like,
I mean, and that's the perfect place where you're going to learn and meet people. And, like, I'm looking forward to some people that I met at the last one that I haven't seen in a year, but I'm looking forward to hanging out with them and, you know, talking shop and picking their brain and seeing how their life is going too. I mean, we do on social media, but when it's face to face, you know, you get into some really good conversations during the lunch breaks and stuff like that. I
was talking to Bear yesterday, and you know, and like he was talking about, like, what are we doing Saturday night for, like, a team dinner? Like, where are we going? Is anything planned yet?
I guess
like,
we got to plan something.
Yeah, we do.
That, you know, we have quite a few coming out. So
yeah, for sure. And that's, I mean, like, you know, like, you know, our team is not only looking forward to the, you know, the countless new techniques and seminar hours people are going to be doing, but also, you know, just hanging out as a group and, you know, getting to socialize a little bit more. Because, man, don't forget, we see a lot of these same people, you know, 2-3 times a week, on a very easy, moderate level. Like, man, it's you're anxious to hang out with these people.
Exactly.
You know? Like, they are literally family. So.
Anyways, I got to get going because I need to get to the other club.
That's right.
If we want to work tonight.
That's right. Speaking of, like, hey, just in closing, hard work, man. You know, we knew we wanted to put out this podcast. We're like, how do we make it work? Where are we going to meet? How are we going to do it?
Make the time.
We make the time, and we don't make excuses. Get her done, right?
Get it done.
All right, guys. That's it for now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and stay tuned for our next one. Have a great night, guys.